This seems to be more rules because of Sundays and 11 it's just another the only difference is mine.
All right, is everybody ready? I'm going to call this meeting of Saanich Council to order on Monday, July 6th. We've got a usual council meeting divided into two halves. It's the formal council meeting followed by the committee of the whole. We're going to start off by hearing from the delegation that's registered to speak. Then we're going to have some minutes. Then we're going to hear from the public on the items in the council portion of the agenda. And then at that time, I'm going to invite Councillor Workman up to sit in the chair, and we'll swap places. And then he'll chair the second half of the meeting we call committee of the whole. If you're here to comment on those items, 4601 Clover Bay Road, 4264 Blenkinsop Road, 3965 Shelburne Street, and 40 Learning Avenue, it's at that time if you have comments that you'll then have the opportunity to come up to the microphone. So with that, let's start with the first item of business, which is our delegation, inviting Co-op Housing Federation of BC up to the microphone.
Hi. I don't feel like a delegation, I'm one person, but I do have one other member of a co-op from across the street from where I live. That's Wendy, right here, she came. So thanks for having me here today. My name is Patty Shaw, and I'm the president, well, I serve as president on the Co-op Housing Federation of British Columbia on their board. And I'm also the first island president, so it feels pretty good because they're stationed, or their office is in Vancouver. They have one small office here, but the main office is in Vancouver. I also live in Saanich. I'm one of the 12 co-ops that, I live in one of the co-ops in Saanich. Co-op housing, important to bring up the PowerPoint presentation. Which one's mine? Here it is. Co-op housing is a proven and sustainable way to provide affordable housing. All co-op homes are priced under market, and some receive rent assistance, and those are the ones that are having trouble now with the rental assistance is petering out from the federal government. This presentation includes a brief overview of co-op housing, what we've accomplished so far, information about our loss of rental assistance and the challenge of recovering that or finding a replacement, and finally, information about opportunities to build new housing co-ops. Housing co-ops occupy the space between traditional renting and owning. The people who live in housing co-ops are members and are involved with the governance and running of their housing co-op. They don't own their home, but they own the co-op together with the other members or shareholders. Upon being accepted to a co-op, members pay a share purchase to become a member. The shares in most co-ops are not equity shares because most housing co-ops in Canada are non-profit. You don't move into a housing co-op as an equity investment. You choose a co-op to be part of a community and to have a secure, affordable home. Housing co-ops have been around in Canada since the late 60s. They are home to 250,000 Canadians. There are 14,500 co-op homes in BC, ranging in size from 2 to 24 units. The average co-op in BC owns about 55 homes. Island co-ops tend to be a bit smaller, and co-ops come in all forms: townhouses, mid-rise apartments, and high-rises. We have 34 housing co-ops in the CRD with almost 1,200 homes. They provide affordable, mixed-income housing to a wide range of people. The co-ops on the island are all found between Souk and Sydney. Roughly 1/3 of all of the housing co-ops and co-op homes in the CRD are in the district of Saanich. This includes my own co-op, Kailasa Housing Co-op. Co-ops and their members are a valuable part of the community. Housing co-ops are home to a wide range of people, representing every family type, income, and background. You will also find people in co-ops that are underrepresented in the rental and ownership markets. We like to talk about the co-op advantage. That advantage is summed up in housing at a fair price, that's our not-for-profit operation, security of tenure, member control, and that means one member, one vote, and the chance to live and contribute to a real community. We think that co-ops can be proud of the contributions they've made to communities, not just here in Saanich, but across BC and Canada. We have our challenges though. Our buildings are getting older, and so are our members. Of course, not Wendy and I, but the support available from government for low-income families is about to disappear. In fact, it already has started disappearing, and there's a couple of co-ops in the CRD that are experiencing that. Our focus is on taking care of our members and our assets in the coming years. Our biggest challenge at the moment is the expiry of the federal co-op operating agreements that provide support to thousands of low-income households across Canada. As you can see here, these agreements have already started to expire and will peak in 2017. In fact, my co-op, there's 3 co-ops in Saanich right across the street from each other, and all 3 of us, all 3 co-ops operating agreements expire in 2017. This shows the dramatic drop in the number of co-ops receiving federal support for low-income members. And this shows the drop in the number of co-ops receiving federal support. And this is the flip side. It's the number of low-income households who will lose that support in the next few years. Our You Hold the Key campaign is focused on sending a clear message to the province that we need a replacement rent supplement program for up to 4,000 low-income households who will be losing their federal rent assistance. Housing is now a provincial responsibility, so it's logical that the province or the provincial government step up to the plate. Not that we should be letting the federal government off the hook. We think that Ottawa should reinvest the money it saves when these operating agreements expire by transferring enough to the provinces to pick up the slack. And this is the resolution that we're asking municipalities and all the co-ops as well to pass that speaks to the You Hold the Key campaign. And it's just supporting what we're trying to do and get the federal government to transfer the money to the provinces and have the provinces administer that. So this is something that we're asking council. I'm presenting this to council as a resolution and to consider. We can come back to this. But it's basically, you can read it. It's basically saying repeating what I have just shared with you. So.
Would you mind reading it out for us, actually?
Okay, sure.
I'm going to give you a leeway on the time because of this. I know you time your presentation, but I'd like to hear it. I think other members of council would as well.
Absolutely. We resolve that our co-op that our council endorse the You Hold the Key campaign, fix the co-op housing crunch campaign. that we call on governments at all levels to act together now to maintain a rent supplement program for more than 20,000 low-income households in cooperative housing communities across Canada. That we call on the province to fund a rent supplement program to replace expiring federal subsidies for low-income members in households or in housing co-ops. That we call on the federal government to commit now to reinvest the savings from expiring federal housing agreements to share the costs of funding this program. And that we commit to working with CHFBC, CHF Canada, and our municipal partners and other housing allies to achieve these goals. And CHF Canada is the Co-op Housing Federation of Canada. It's a national body and we're a provincial body. The You Hold the Key campaign is led by CHFBC, where I'm proud to serve as president. CHFBC is a co-op of co-ops. We are part of a national co-op housing movement with partners in Ottawa and in every province. We're entirely self-sustaining and rely on our members to fund our operations. Our job is to unite, represent, and serve our members in a thriving cooperative housing movement. And we do that in a number of ways that add value to their operations and speak up for them when they need us. And right now, they really do need us. They need all of us. It's not all doom and gloom though. Our focus is on protecting our existing members, but we have also found a way recently to build more new co-op homes in partnership with the City of Vancouver, Van City Credit Union, and a partnership of co-op and nonprofit community housing partners. The project developer is a community land trust set up by CHFBC to serve as a platform for development and redevelopment of properties for affordable housing. The City of Vancouver is putting up the land on 4 city sites worth $25 million. We're getting the land on a 99-year lease at $10 in total. In return, we have assembled the equity and partnerships necessary to build 358 affordable homes on those 4 sites. There will be 1 co-op and 2 nonprofit housing developments. The projected rents are on average 75% of market, but some rents will be as low as half of market. And there's Fraser View and Tickfa townhomes. These are just the architectural drawings. And that's the 3rd building, or 4th. No, that's the 4th. And these are waterfront apartments. It's right on the Fraser River. Well, not far enough because of climate change, but basically. So, the next 5 slides, the slides I just showed you, give you a quick look at what we're planning to build. Construction bids have been finalized and we expect to break ground this month. So you saw the architectural drawings. Thank you again for allowing me to give this presentation, and a special thank you to Councillor Fred Haynes for his encouragement. Finally, thank you for all your efforts in seeking solutions to the affordable housing crisis here in Saanich. I look forward to continuing this dialogue, and please feel free to call me or Tom Armstrong, our Executive Director in Vancouver, at the number you see on the screen. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got a couple.
Any questions?
I do have a couple. Maybe Council has a couple as well. I wanted to ask you, what's happening in the short term with the funding that's going down? How is the system coping?
Well, right now what's happening, there's a couple co-ops in the city here, or not the city, the CRD, that have their agreements expired, and I'm not sure, but what the people that were on assistance are having to pay maximum rent for the co-op to meet their budget, because co-ops have to have a zero balance budget, so they can't accrue surpluses to make up for lost rents. So they're going to have to charge those members full price, and those members will have to try to make it, or they'll default. And unfortunately, there's a lot of seniors and single parents, new Canadians, that are going to be looking for alternative housing in a market that's just impossible to afford. So, yeah, it's grim. It's happening. It's already starting. It'll happen a lot quicker. There'll be more this year and even more the following year that are going to be out of their agreements and not have the money to provide subsidy.
Thank you. Could you return to the resolution that you showed us in the slides? Sure. And how many other councils have endorsed this already?
The City of Sydney has several in the mainland, on the mainland, and I've spoke to the township of Esquimalt, but I haven't presented them with the resolution. It's just a housing forum, but they know about it, and we're hoping to get them on board as well. I'm starting with Saanich since it's my home turf.
Yes. Would you mind reading it for us?
Okay. We resolve that our co-op, or this is co-op, it's supposed to be council. We resolve that our council endorse the You Hold the Key campaign, Fix the Co-op Housing Crunch campaign. That we call on governments at all levels to act together now to maintain a rent supplement program for more than 20,000 low-income households in cooperative housing communities across Canada. That we call on the province to fund a rent supplement program to replace expiring federal subsidies for low-income members in housing co-ops. That we call on the federal government to commit now to reinvest the savings from expiring federal housing agreements and to share the costs of funding these programs. That we commit to working with CHFBC, CHF Canada, and our municipal partners and other housing allies to achieve these goals.
Thank you. Councillor Jordan has his hand up, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the clerk. A little unusual for a resolution to come in front of council in this manner. Just wondering if it, in many ways it's certainly supportable, wondering if it would be appropriate for council to direct staff or ask staff to put this resolution on the agenda for next Monday's meeting. And I will so move. And there's a second.
Thank you, Councillor.
I will speak to it. I don't see a lot in the resolution at this point that is not supportable, but I think we need to provide an opportunity for the public at large to be able to present on the resolution, and of course they didn't know it was coming tonight. So I think for the sake of a week, to give the public the opportunity to make comment.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Councillor Haynes?
Thank you, Councillor Derman. I was about to make the same motion, but I'm delighted that we are like-minded in this. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you next week.
I'll be here.
Thank you.
Councillor Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the Speaker. I'm wondering if, when you talk to us about how much rent will increase, like I think to put a dollar amount would be helpful so that we and the general public can see the impacts, like if it's $50, $100.
Way more.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. And so I think that's a really valuable thing to highlight. And then I'm wondering about the SAFER program for seniors. So if seniors are in these co-ops, and now the co-ops aren't going to be subsidized, would the SAFER program help the seniors stay there?
Well, that's under negotiation right now with CHFBC is negotiating with BC Housing, because as I understand it right now, co-ops don't, people that live in co-ops, co-op members don't qualify. So there's no assistance. And with there's a lot of us that started in co-ops 30 years ago, so there's a lot of people in co-ops that are seniors. I can speak to the rent just here on how much we call it housing charge, because it's not really rent. Housing charge. In my own co-op, we are at, I think, 32% of your income is your housing charge. So, and there's a bottom and a top. Yeah. So we're talking rents are going to go up for some people, you know, I'm not great at math, but what's that, 76%, or I can't can't work backwards, I'm not a math person, but substantially. We already have one member, and I live in a tiny co-op,
Yeah.
17 units, and we've already had one senior member has moved out because he found a one-bedroom, no services, nothing. It was actually a bachelor suite that he's living in now, and had to get rid of and, you know, give away all his pets and everything because he had to live. And he was a founding member. He was in our co-op for 33 years, and he's had to leave because he was anticipating he's going to have to leave, and he got this opportunity, so he did. And, you know, that's going to be happening all over. He's lucky he found somewhere, even if it is very small, he found something. But not everybody will. If you have children, it'll be more difficult.
And then my other comment is, have you spoken to CRD housing around the whole issue? Because I know we're going through interesting challenges with other subsidies on other properties as well.
I haven't spoken to them directly, but our executive director, Tom Armstrong, has been is a constant communication with BC Housing. I imagine that CRD is also. I'm hoping they've been at the table. I don't think so though, because I haven't heard anything specific about the CRD. So that's something that we need to do. We need to speak to them.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Haynes for a second time.
I'd like to thank Councillor Brownlow on the CRD point. I've been talking to the group about the possibility of bringing this item forward to CRD, and I was going to look for someone to help me with that. Perhaps we could have a conversation around that. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Councillor Workman, you still have your hand up?
Thank you very much, Chair. I should remind us, there's a phrase that's a little different. We're not just directing it to senior levels of government, we're directing it to governments at all levels. And it just so happens we're at one level. Yeah. And as we look at that, I appreciate your report coming to us, but I believe we have to ask ourselves, what are we prepared to do? We have CRD housing, we have other housing needs, and I think it's a good resolution, but we do have to ask ourselves, what are we willing to put into it? And I believe it's a real question that has to be answered.
Can I respond to that? I know that I think it's the Federation of Municipalities has passed a resolution that supports affordable housing in different forms, and it specifically mentions co-op housing. So, you know, that's already, I provided the wording. Fred has it. He has a copy of that, and I can send it to anybody here. It's a letter that they shared that has different affordable housing included.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Great. Well, I think that's the end of the questions. Thank you so much. And you said that we'll see you next week?
Yeah, I'll come back.
Perfect. All right. So we'll call the question on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, adoption of the minutes. Madam Clerk.
Thank you. These items are the Council and Committee of the Whole minutes of June 22nd and the Special Council meeting of June 29th. Second.
Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Next item, please, Madam Clerk. It's public input, right?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor. Public input on business items under item D and E. The resolutions for adoption is the property tax and utility fee increases over the consumer price index. The other item is the Horticulture Center of the Pacific request for postponement of claim. And on the from a recommendation of the April 20th Committee of the Whole, this item was considered at Committee of the Whole and recommended for ratification.
All right. If there are any members of the public that wish to come and speak to these items, please come forward to the microphone. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, and staff. My name is Haji Charania. I reside at 757 Genevieve Road. Tonight I'm speaking on item D1 as an individual. I want to thank Ms. Cheney for her report. Quite interesting read, long report, but interesting read. think I read it with some interest. Respectfully, I want to offer a few observations of my own. Please don't take these comments as criticism, because the report depicts past, and I'm more interested in the future. Referring to table number 1, table 1, I note that the cumulative increases are considerably higher than those presented for every year. Also, I'm curious to know how these costs compare with the costs before costs such as sewer and garbage were siphoned off from the property taxes and put on the utility bills. As I mentioned before, about 35% of the utility bill represents the water usage. The other 65% is garbage and sewer charges. Also, referring to table 2, the headline is the sewer operating and capital. The big question here is who is accountable for these hefty increases, but more importantly, how do we intend to manage these costs in future? I noted the difference between CPI and MPI with some interest, very interesting comparison. The compositions of those two price indexes are noteworthy. As you review the composition of MPI, it is very clear to me, council members, you will have to hold the line on wages and benefits, which constitutes 61% of MPI. Obviously, this means some challenging and tough negotiations ahead at the bargaining table. A few years ago, I was concerned about unfunded pension liability for signage. I'm not sure what that liability is today in signage. I think it may have been somewhere in the financial report, but I've not taken time to dig into it. Comments from UBCM and Alberta Urban Municipalities Association are of no help at all. Respectfully, they should be put aside. Given that the 2/3 of the population work for small organizations, and there is an increase in the population living on small pensions, this notion of municipalities as large and complex organizations, and implied, nothing to do idea, is a pure fabrication and distraction in my view. Incidentally, I happened to listen to Mr. Walter Jackway, the former mayor of Campbell River, on radio on Friday, and admired his goal of managing increases in the municipal taxes tightly. Unfortunately for the taxpayers of Campbell River, he did not get support from his council, and more unfortunately for them, he lost the election. I wondered, that election in Campbell River was a contest of popularity or the competency. I'll leave the answer to you. Now on page 9 of the report, under reason number 5, new services. I agree completely with that paragraph. Council must always be aware of the cost and benefit of new service or a new program when they add something. Needless to say, like many other organizations, Council must separate needs from wants and remain vigilant on initial and ongoing costs. I don't have to say all these things to you, obviously you know about it. So when you initiate the service, I think there should be a sunset clause so that the service or new program does not become a permanent burden. And finally, I want to comment on the last paragraph of the report regarding efficiency improvements and the described situation in the city of Victoria. I respectfully suggest you do not need to create a significant body of work. The efficiency should be one of the prime responsibilities of every director and senior manager. Identification of redundancy, overlap, and duplication should be part of operational responsibilities. And I've gone through that, sir, for 35 years myself. Often I have wondered, why can't we integrate or amalgamate with other municipalities or outsource services such as sending utility and property tax bills and collection of those bills? Some of it is done now online anyway. I pay my utility bills online. I know an initiative such as common business license, I think Councillor Brownoff has referred in the past, common implemented with other municipalities, but a lot more could be done to integrate the services. I have shared some of my thoughts in an email of June 17th to the mayor and the council, with a copy to our administrator as well as Madam Dupas. Also, as you conduct a community